Now, I get fired up when we talk about company planning because I've been consulting and doing this, for a living over here for about 17 years, even, for about 10 years when I worked for the manufacturer, I was doing consulting work. And so I've seen a lot of success, and I've seen a lot of people struggle. I've seen both sides of the equation. So one of the things I took away in my journals when I was writing down, hey, this is the smart stuff that we're doing, and this is the stuff that I really don't want to have happen when I'm out there and somebody gives me the keys to the store, or I have my own money invested in my own companies. One of the things that I wanted to have is I wanted to have clarity for every employee and alignment for every employee, so that if I'm here doing this video and I have companies operating out there in the world, they're doing the right things based on whatever plan we set forth. Now, that takes a little bit of work at the front end, and it's one of those processes that a lot of small business owners, they really don't like it that much because it creates accountability for them. But I will say this, if you want to create a business that doesn't need you, if you want to create a business that can sustain itself past you as a business owner, your personality, your brand, your charisma, your network, if you want to create a business that prints money, you really have to think through how the planning process gets organized so that you can teach your team how to do this without you being in front and center. So let's take a look at what the process looks like. So first and foremost, what we want to do is we want to do a yearly situational analysis. This is a business evaluation, and what that means is we're going to go through and we're going to deconstruct our business, and we're going to ask the questions about why we do things the way we do them. So we're going to look at the processes, and I'm going to just say right now that on the business evaluation tool on the EGIA Contracting University website, by the time you watch this video, there's probably 200 processes out there. In totality, we know that we have about 400. So really, as we finish out the site and the technology, you may come across 400 potential questions, and they're all asking you to define why that particular process is important to your individual business. So if I'm in the residential change-out market, generating lead turnovers from service calls is important to me. It might be one of the highest priority things I do. So service agreements become a key element of that. If I'm a commercial company and I'm not really engaged in that, I'm interested in commercial maintenance agreements. I could care less about residential pricing and residential flat rate and residential service agreements. It's not relevant. So every single business inside of the EGIA premium membership platform is different. And this process respects that. What you have to do is you have to simply go through the procedures and ask the question, why am I doing this? And how important is it to my overall success? So when you do that process, that leads you to gaps. And the gaps are just areas where you personally have gone through the questioning process, what we call the situational analysis, and you say, well, that's important to me, but I don't really think I'm functioning as well as I should. Or you say, that's important to me, and I know I'm not doing that. So let me give you an example. So a business metric that we know we'd love to see inside of any business is that 50% of all of your residential leads for changeouts should be derived from your service business. And that includes maintenance as well. So service and maintenance together prove 50% of the leads. Now, if that's not happening, let's say you're at 20%, you have to look at that and say, well, why is that important? And the answer is, well, everybody knows that a service-generated lead is a much better qualified lead, and I've got somebody that's essentially ready to do a repair or replace, and most likely a replace or a lead turnover. So 50% of those leads coming from there just mean I have a big enough customer base that it produces those leads for me. If my customer base is too small and I don't have that kind of quantity coming there, the question becomes, is that important enough to me to make an adjustment in my business process? If the answer is yes, then the question becomes, what is the priority? And so we tie that to the question of, and this is the biggest challenge that contractors face, and I've been doing this for 17 years, and we've had over 1,200 people come through that financial camp. They always ask the question, I struggle with how to prioritize. I know I'm supposed to be doing that, but I don't know if that one or that one is more important. So the way we catalog or prioritize is we do it based on how it links to profitability and cash flow. I mean, why are we in business in the first place? I mean, EGIA is a nonprofit organization, so everything we do is designed to feed back to our membership. That's designed. So we're not interested in looking at improving profitability. We're interested in improving the quality of the product and the service to you, our members. But if I'm in contracting, which I am, and I'm a for-profit entity, I'm interested in improving the customer experience, the employee experience, and the company's overall profitability because I need that three-legged stool. So I'm always going to look at profit and cash flow as the discussion point on whether or not this is a priority or not. If you have trouble with that, send a question to the Ask the Expert or Ask the Consultant, and we'll be happy to help out. I answered a question today about service agreements. A company in Iowa was struggling with the idea of how many service agreements that they really should be thinking about. And the answer to that is, well, 50% of your customer base ought to be locked down on a service agreement. That's the first standard that you want to hit. If you're not there, then you're probably not producing enough leads that are coming from your service and maintenance business, which enhances your profitability because we all know we close better with existing customers who trust us, and we sell 67% more revenue to a client that already has a relationship. So it's not hard math. Even a Buckeye like me can figure out that that's going to produce more profit. And that helps cash flow. So one of the things we're doing is we're asking those questions to prioritize, which, I don't really know how many of these are going to be gaps for you, but let's assume that there are 75. I had a company, my first company I ever bought, there were 371 items on the list that weren't mapped out well. We said, well, that's a big, overwhelming, giant elephant. How do we eat the elephant? One bite at a time, right? It's the old cliche. So what we did is we took the 371, or in our example for our video today, 75, and we're going to say, well, both of those are overwhelming, so how do I do that? Well, I'm going to look up here, and I'm going to say, well, how does this relate? And we're going to prioritize that into the 1 through 5 must-do items, the 6 through 15 need to do, and the 16 plus. So every single idea, meaning that 371 minus 5 is 366, minus another 9, we'll call that 357. So 357 items are going to show up on the 16 plus. I don't really care about these right now. They're issues, that's real, but these are the ones that are going to make the most difference inside of the employee, the customer, and the business condition. And then when I fix one of these, I'm going to move one of these in, and I'm allowed to move one of these in here. And so this is an ongoing process. And you say, well, I don't really know if I have time to do that. And my answer is, if you don't have time to do that, then you don't have time to increase your profitability to 20% because this is the process that you use. There's no getting around the business of business. When you look at a business transaction in terms of how you run a service call, you would most assuredly look at it as a job cost and say, did we make money on it? If you didn't make money on it, you would probably look at the technician and look at the service ticket and how do I correct that behavior? Well, if a business isn't performing to a 15 to 20% level, it's the same process. We simply look at the business and say, why are we not performing to the standard that we want? And so it's okay if you're at 10% and you say, I don't really care, I don't want to do this is too much work. That's fine. If you're satisfied with that, there's no issue. But if you're looking to improve your profitability, then you have to benchmark yourself against the standards and say, well, how does that work? So what we're going to do is we're going to order the 1 through 5, we're going to order the 6 through 15, we're going to go 16 plus, and we're going to do that based on the gap analysis towards profitability and cash flow.